I'm out on the Giant Revolt today. Which I've now had for 10 days. And this is my 6th ride on the bike. So I thought, so I decided I'd share some more of my thoughts on the bike. For anyone who didn't watch the last video, this is a Revolt Advanced 2. So right from the start, let me say I've been loving it. Because not everything is perfect, and I will be telling you some of the things I don't like. Or should I say, things that haven't gone the way I'd hoped. But the one thing I do find is this bike just fits me. It really does. A lot of trucks on this road because just over the brow is the Rockwool factory. So this bike really just fits me nicely. To use, or to quote Troy Corser of World Superbike fame, when he was struggling to get a bike set up, and eventually he found the setup that worked, and he said, I can now ride the track, I don't have to ride the bike. And that's how I feel about this bike. You know, when you feel at one with it, you just concentrate on the road ahead without thinking about what the bike's doing. And as an added bonus, the seat post has stopped creaking. I didn't do anything, it just sort of settled in. Whew. You know, that feeling where you've been going really well and then you turn and you start going uphill into a headwind, and suddenly you feel like you're just walking. But then again, if cycling wasn't difficult, it'd be no fun. Wouldn't feel the sense of achievement. One thing I will say though, is the Giant Approach saddle is not the most comfortable thing ever. It's adequate and probably not worth spending money on a new one, but nevertheless, the Montrose saddle on the Trek is significantly more comfortable, and that annoys me because the Approach saddle is just a parts bin special. Chuck it on every bike, cheap and nasty, and then people will buy another one. Well, I'm thinking no. Charge me 25, 30 quid more for the bike, I don't care, but put the right stuff on. I find it very annoying that you buy a bike and the manufacturer expects you to throw half the components away, and you think you spend more money and get a nicer bike, but it'll have the same problem. What I do find on this bike is I seem to be a lot more metronomic and just seem to be turning the pedals without putting too much effort into it. What's interesting though is, although it's slower on the road, which is fine because it's got gravel tyres on, I seem to be going faster uphill. Not that I've noticed, it's just when I get back. And Strava says, oh, you've got a personal record there. And a couple of people I've mentioned it to say, well, yeah, it's a carbon fibre bike, it's lighter, it's easier for climbing. I'm sure that is the truth, but it's only 1.5 kilos lighter than the Trek, and that's just 2 water bottles. Does it really make that much difference? I don't know. Or is it because I'm pedalling more efficiently? But if that was the case, I'd expect to go faster everywhere. Anyway, so I went out a couple of days ago, and you know, it's one of those things, living in Wales, but they had forecast no rain for the afternoon. So I went out, and 2 miles into the ride, not only did we have rain, but we had torrential rain. And so I got soaked. And that's fine. You know, I always ride in the rain, I ride all weather. I'd rather be riding than not riding, so it's one of the things I put up with, you know. But being a new bike and all, I was a little bit annoyed at the forecast. Still, while I was out, it threw the chain off, going from the big ring to the small ring. And let me step back a bit from there, because sometimes forget how hard this hill is. So back to the bike. Sometimes I should just step back a bit, because on the second ride gears started jumping a bit, and you know, that's fairly normal with a new bike. And the bike shops always say, yeah, bring it back after 6 weeks. But really, indexing goes out quite quickly on a new bike. But the technique is to just, well, try. And just turn the cable tension a quarter of a turn counterclockwise. And that worked. And when the GRX system is indexed correctly, it is just a thing of beauty, and I love it. But when it threw the chain off, I had a look, and the derailleur hadn't been clutched, and that's fine, I should have checked. I assumed the shop would have set it up like that, but never mind. So I put the chain on, and I clutched the derailleur, and away I went. And then the gear started hop, skipping and jumping all over the place. But because of the torrential rain, I carried on going, and eventually I came to a junction where I had to stop. So I had a look, and there was a stick in the jockey wheels. So I thought, that's great, that's the problem. But it wasn't. So I really am confused at that. I mean, why is it just clutching the derailleur would send the indexing out? And I'm rubbish at indexing gears. So it's going to have to go back to the shop because, you know, it's a new bike anyway. Why fiddle with it yourself? But it will certainly be before the 6 weeks that they recommend. Interestingly, the Trek is also GRX, and it's never thrown the chain, even with the derailleur unclutched. Thank you. It's a nice path to ride, but generally quite busy with pedestrian traffic. Going back to the gears thing, I have found on the other bikes, you know, that they say if it does this, you turn it half a turn clockwise, or if it does that, quarter of a turn counterclockwise. And that's never worked for me. The only thing I find that gets it anywhere near close is sitting behind it with the bike on the stand and just by eye trying to see if the jockey wheels are lined up with the sprocket that it's supposed to be on. Well, it's starting to rain for a change. So overall, I just love riding this Giant. Really do. Ah, well, let's hope that was just a little shower. Because whilst I brought my rain jacket with me, I'm too lazy to stop and put it on. Nope. Looks like the rain has set in.